If you're interested in purchasing long-term care insurance for yourself or for a loved one, you have some options. We're here today to talk to you about what those options are so that you can have a better idea of what it is that you might need. We're Shannon and Michael with Healthcare Genius. For more videos and the best information on healthcare and retirement, subscribe to our channel and make sure you click the bell to be notified when we come out with new content.
What is long-term care? Long-term care varies depending on what an individual's needs are. Normally, it starts off in the home, where someone can no longer fully take care of themselves and they need help from a loved one in most cases, but sometimes that loved one maybe is still working. So oftentimes a home health aide will come in for a few hours and help that individual. It then progresses oftentimes into what we know as assisted living, where somebody decides to move out of their home. They move into an assisted living facility just in case there's somebody there to assist them and just overall to make sure that they're protected. And then finally, what a lot of people think of long-term care is a nursing home. That's considered skilled nursing, and that's where there is a facility that people are in that they have care 24 hours. So there's always somebody going to be there to help them, oftentimes again bathing, dressing, taking medication. Now a fourth type that often gets used is what we call adult daycare, where an individual, as we mentioned earlier, they need to go out and run some errands, or maybe they just need a break. My mother did that with my stepfather when he had dementia. She would need to go out, and so she would take him to a facility for a couple hours, but she knew he was safe and that she didn't have to worry about things. Do we really need to worry about long-term care? A lot of people feel like it's never going to happen to them. And the reality is that 6 out of 10 couples who are over the age of 65 are going to need some type of care of the 4 levels that we mentioned earlier. So it's very much a real issue. I'd ask you the question watching the video. You probably know somebody that's had to deal with this. So again, the odds are that most of us are going to need some type of care. A lot of people under the age of 65 need some type of long-term care service. In fact, 45% of people needing some type of care were under the age of 65. A lot of that is due to dementia and Alzheimer's happening to people at younger ages. I happen to know 3 people in the last year who were diagnosed in their 50s. So it's happening to younger people. The Alzheimer's Association expects that dementia and Alzheimer's will double in the next 30 years. This is another reason that individuals are concerned and that you should be thinking and understanding what your different options are.
That's right. I think we tend to think, this is an old people problem. With more and more people having cognitive disorders, younger and younger, more people are needing care. The average cost of having dementia is $350,000. And so the care that we're talking about can be quite expensive. So the first thing that happens when somebody realizes that they need some extra help is they ask themselves, what are my options? What seems like the most natural option is to have a loved one take care of them. But there's several reasons why this doesn't always work the way that you might want it to. The first is that it can be physically and emotionally taxing. As responsibilities increase for that individual, it can put a major strain on the relationship that you have with that loved one. So the second reason that this may not always work is that your loved one may still be working. And if that's the case, they're not able to provide the around-the-clock care that you may not need today, but you likely eventually will. The third reason that this may not always work is that they may be in what we call the sandwich generation, which is actually 25% of caregivers. And what that means is that they're not only taking care of a parent, but they're also taking care of a child at the same time. This can end up being a lot of work. For a caregiver, the average time that they actually spend caregiving is 35 hours a week. So if that person already has a job, or if they're providing care for children, it can be extremely taxing.
Shannon, I think the latest estimate was 42 million caregivers in the United States, so more than 10% of the population. So it's obviously a tremendous burden.
And it seems impossible that it could be that many people, but when you do consider that 6 out of 10 of us will need long-term care at some point in our lives, it starts to put things into perspective. The second way that you can deal with needing long-term care is to pay for the service. Whether it's having somebody come to your house a couple times a day or even a couple times a week, whether it's assisted living or whether it's skilled nursing care, it can be expensive. In 2018, the average cost of a nursing home was almost $100,000 a year. Now, many people think that Medicare pays for long-term care, and it doesn't. And that's something that we really want you to be aware of. A lot of times people will mix up Medicare and Medicaid, and they're not the same thing. Medicaid will help pay for long-term care. For most people, they will not be eligible for Medicaid, and it will not be something that they can rely on to pay for long-term care. Medicare just doesn't cover it.
And Shannon, the thing about Medicaid too is that a lot of nursing homes, they have limited bed space for Medicaid patients. We've had family members who were trying to find Medicaid facilities, and it was really difficult.
That's right.
The third way to pay for long-term care costs is insurance. About 30 to 40 years ago, insurance companies started to develop policies. The problem was that the insurance companies underpriced these products. So over the last 10 to 20 years, a lot of insurance companies have dropped out of the business, and a lot of those policies have seen premium increases, which has caused consumers today not to want to purchase traditional long-term care insurance. There are new versions of those products that are now priced appropriately and should weather the test of time. So that's one option. Another option that has come about because of the limited number of people offering true long-term care insurance are what we call hybrid life insurance policies. And those policies actually pay a percentage of the death benefit. When somebody has a trigger, then they have access to part of that death benefit. So as an example, if you had a $500,000 death benefit, you could draw between 2 and 4%, so $10,000 to $20,000 a month, and you could typically do that for 50 months or 4 years to cover what those costs would be. Mm-hmm. So those are a couple of ways on the insurance side that you can use to fund these healthcare costs.
Mm-hmm. Whatever type of policy you have, you may wonder, okay, what has to happen for me to qualify to get that benefit? And what they're really tied to is what we call ADLs, or activities of daily living. Those 6 activities of daily living are bathing, continence, dressing, eating, toileting, and transferring. And so generally, if 2 of those things apply to you, you would be eligible to receive that benefit.
Now, Shannon, the other area too that's a separate one is cognitive impairments. So, which would apply to the dementia, Alzheimer's situations. That's also considered one trigger.
That's right.
Now we're going to go into a little more detail on the types of insurance products. We'll start with traditional. Traditional, the new policies that are out today are going to cover a daily benefit ranging anywhere from $50 a day up to roughly $300 a day. Traditional insurance will normally pay out for a period of time, so you have the choice of choosing, maybe it's a 2-year benefit period, a 3-year, a 5-year. The downside that people find with traditional long-term care insurance is that if you never need it, then it goes away. So you paid the insurance company a premium and it went away. There are some products today that actually have a return of premium benefit on them. These are fairly new. That gives somebody the ability to know that if they never use the coverage, they're going to at least get the premiums that they paid back. Well, and the other great thing about these products is that the government gives companies tax breaks if the company pays for the coverage for their employees, to the point that a lot of times there's 100% deduction at the company level to pay for that, and the employee is not taxed on it. So it's an extremely valuable employee benefit that we're seeing companies use to attract and retain good employees, because we know that this is a big concern for individuals.
That's right.
So then the next type of product that's been developed are what we call hybrid life products, and those range based on the type of life insurance that's being offered. In general, you have term insurance, and so there are term policies that have a long-term care type of benefit, where if you lose 2 of 6 activities of daily living, you can access part of the death benefit to pay for your care. So that's one. There are what we call permanent life products, and those range from universal life to indexed universal life to whole life. Those products oftentimes will have some sort of a long-term care rider, or what we call a chronic illness benefit that would cover somebody in the event that they lost 2 of those 6 activities of daily living or had a cognitive impairment. And again, it's going to pay a percentage of the death benefit. So those are the 2 major types of products.
While the hybrid products can be great options, the thing to remember here is that the death benefit is reduced should you have long-term care needs. As much of that benefit as you use for long-term care, that's taken away from the death benefit. So that's really the downside to these policies.
Yeah, and the upside though for so many people is that if you're one of those people who believes it's not going to happen to them, the death benefit will get paid out to your spouse or beneficiaries, charity, whoever you want it to go to. So we see that these types of products are increasingly more popular because of that fact.
All right, so the big question that everybody wants the answer to is, how much is it going to cost me? As with life insurance policies, it has to do with age. So the younger you are, the more affordable these policies are going to be. It also has to do with your health. If you're in good health, they tend to be less expensive. If you do have pre-existing health conditions, you could either be uninsurable or it would just be more expensive to buy a policy. The third component is whether you're an individual or a couple. With a lot of insurance companies, we do see huge benefits for couples having a joint long-term care insurance policy. So that's a great option if you're married. The need for long-term care is often all too real for a lot of us. So whether you or your family member has had an experience, good or bad, with needing long-term care, feel free to comment below and let us know what your experience has been. We're always here to help. So if you want more information on healthcare and retirement, again, please make sure to subscribe to our channel. And if you are interested in purchasing long-term care insurance and you want to talk to us and become a client, please click on the link below in our description. Again, we're Shannon and Michael with Healthcare Genius. Don't forget to click the bell to be notified when we come out with new videos.